Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I recently went to a trade show in Orlando, Florida, and after the show was over, decided to spend a few days driving around to some of the cities and beaches and checking out what Florida had to offer. So that's what I'll be doing in this video. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. On my first day of the trip, I decided to spend it at Universal Studios. Volcano Bay was sold out, but I went to the other two theme parks for Universal. In the beginning of the day, it started to rain quite a bit, and coming from where I'm at in Seattle, if it starts raining, the whole day is a goner. So I didn't have too high hopes for that day, but you know what? It only lasted a few minutes. The skies cleared up. The rest of the day was nice. When I was there, I like to get my bearings of wherever I go, so I decided to walk around both of the parks to get a feel for what they had to offer. By the time I decided to go on some rides, like I wanted to go on some of the roller coasters and stuff like that, the wait times were pretty long, and I only went on one ride and then I called it. And for that reason, they sell some express passes, which are relatively expensive, but I would say it'd be worth it if you want to actually get on some of those rides without having to wait an hour per ride. You know, that's it's kind of a bummer. That digs into your vacation quite a bit. Now, one cool thing that the Turnpikes have is they have these rest stops in the middle of the highway. Both sides of the highway can stop at the same rest stop. We don't really have those where I'm from. Our rest stops are on the side of each side of the highway. And this rest stop on the Turnpike is really cool because they actually have restaurants in there. And then they have gas station. And yeah, the rest stops in Washington State, that's what they are. They're just a rest stop. They got some bathrooms. Sometimes they got people handing out food that you pay for, or they got vending machines. But having a restaurant and a gas station in the middle of the highway, I thought was pretty cool. So this is Cocoa Beach. I didn't really spend too much time in the actual cities of some of these beaches that I went to. I went there, checked out the beach, got in the vehicle, and drove to my next destination. But I can tell you that Cocoa Beach, I was driving through the city, and it seemed to be one of those, you know, somewhat funky towns. It had that feeling, kind of like a surf town, basically. So if you like that atmosphere, it's a good place to be. It's a nice beach. And while I was at Cocoa Beach, I saw this turtle just walking down the beach, having a good time. And I saw this little lizard guy. So then I drove up to Titusville, Florida, and spent the night there at an extended stay. And I would tell you what, some of those extended stays and similar types of hotels offer really good value. The rooms are typically a little bit bigger. You know, you actually have some, you have like a little kitchen in there, And the rates, a lot of times it looks like the rates are actually less than if you stayed at a traditional hotel. Really good option. And then that coming morning, I went to breakfast at a Cracker Barrel. Never been to a Cracker Barrel before, so I decided, hey, you know, I'm always hearing about it. Let's try it out. And then once I got done with my breakfast, went to the Kennedy Space Center. And this is a pretty big and heavy, looks like granite ball. And it's floating on some water, and you can see the water coming out the bottom. And you can actually walk up to that and stop it, and then just start spinning it however you want. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then after that, you walk up to one of the major attractions inside the park without having to get on a bus. And that's this Atlantis building in the back. So after I got done checking out the attractions inside the park, the areas that are walkable to, I got on a bus to check out the Saturn rocket. And I gotta say, the Saturn rocket is one of the biggest attractions at the Kennedy Space Center, but you do have to get on a bus and go to another location. And the Saturn rocket is pretty big. It's pretty impressive when you walk up to it. It's a lot bigger than any of the other rockets that you see when you first walk into the park. After I got done checking out the Kennedy Space Center, I drove to Ormond Beach, Florida. because the following day I decided to check out Daytona Beach, and that's just north of Daytona Beach, and that's just where I wound up getting a hotel. But I did strike it pretty lucky. I didn't really like too much of the hotels or area around Daytona Beach, but there was a really good restaurant just down the street from the hotel that I stayed in, and that was the Takiya Japanese Steakhouse in Ormond Beach, and they had really nice atmosphere and some really good food. I had the soft shell crab, which is fried, and it's actually sold as an appetizer. And then I had some of their shrimp spring rolls and a Sapporo beer, and that was a nice meal to finish off the day. I sat at the bar, but they also had a main seating area where it looks like they do some cooking around the table if you got larger groups. And then on the other side they had a sushi bar. So they had a bar and a sushi bar, and then the main restaurant. So it is a pretty cool place. So I never been to a Waffle House, so for breakfast before I went to Daytona Beach, I decided to stop at a Waffle House and try it out. I will say that was an experience. I now know what at least one Waffle House is like, and yeah, it's a smaller restaurant. Yeah, it's a Waffle House. So then I went to Daytona Beach and walked up and down the beach to get a good idea of what it's all about. And I will say that that is a really nice beach. You can actually drive on it a little bit. In the middle there, they had a pier that you could walk out to a restaurant called Joe's Crab Shack. On the other side of the pier, they did have this nice walkway for a little while. Now as I'm walking back down the beach, you can see some people running up and down the beach on my right, and they were actually some ROTC recruits, so that was pretty cool to see. After I got done checking out the beach, I went over and I checked out the speedway. So after I got done checking out the Daytona Speedway, I headed off to St. Augustine, and as I was getting close to St. Augustine, just on the edge of the city, I drove by this classic car show, and I decided that I had to turn around and stop and check it out. It was really cool to see all these classic cars and walk around. And that car show is being held by the Classic Car Museum of St. Augustine, and they actually had a pretty good sized building with a lot of cool cars inside as well. And they had a basically it looked like a little conference center, so they might rent that out from time to time for people to have gatherings. It was a pretty cool place to see, a lot of cool cars. Then once I got done checking out the car show and the car museum, I went ahead and went into the city of St. Augustine. Now, one thing that was pretty cool about that is it's pretty much the actual downtown of St. Augustine. It's a walkable area. You don't really have cars. Well, they do have some streets going through there, but mostly it's a walkable area and people are walking around. They do have a parking garage just on the outside of the city that you're supposed to go into and park. Yeah, so you can just get out, walk around, and enjoy yourself. For lunch, I had a fish sandwich with a coconut lager, which pretty much seemed like a coconut flavored Guinness. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. After I got done with my lunch, I went over and checked out the fort at St. Augustine. And the fort was built by the Spanish in the late 1600s. It's the oldest fort in the United States. And St. Augustine is, I think, the oldest city in the United States. So it's a pretty cool place to go. Now, they did have some tours that went inside the fort. The wait time for that was quite a while. So once I got done checking out the outside of it, I went ahead and headed towards Clearwater because I was going to get up in the morning, have some breakfast, check out the beach, and then meet my cousin for lunch. Now, I will say that the beach at Clearwater is going to be the best beach that I visited. The sand is a lot nicer. The waves are shorter, so if you want to actually go out into the water, you're not going to be bobbing around. The other side, the other coast of Florida, it's really good if you want to actually get out there and do some surfing. The Clearwater side, the Gulf side, it's really good if you just want to lay on the beach, go and do some wading through the ocean. And the sand at the Clearwater Beach is lighter in color. Now, one thing is, even though it says clear water, the water is not perfectly clear, you know. So, but it's nice water. I liked it. After my day at the beach, I got a pretty good sunburn. So, yeah. For dinner, I had some fried alligator and some onion rings. It was my first time having alligator, and I gotta say, I liked it. It seems kind of like a mix between fish and chicken, you know, kind of. Not really chicken, not really fish, but kind of like somewhere in between there. At least that's what I thought. Now the following day, I went to Devil's Den, and that is a pretty cool place. I did the snorkeling. I do have a friend that said that he did the scuba diving. It's probably a better experience if you are certified and you can actually go down and do some scuba diving. Still pretty cool experience to just go in there and do the snorkeling. They do have the rental equipment. That's what I did. I rented the equipment, and it's pretty cool. They have a walkway that goes out that lets you look down into the cave, so you can see everybody down there, you know, having a good old time. And then I walked down into the cave, and that water is pretty clear. It's got a nice blue color to it. I mean, it just looks really nice. You do have some little fish swimming around, living in there. You don't really notice them if you're not really paying attention. But yeah, Devil's Den, really cool place to check out. Get some really good pictures. Yeah. Once I got done with that, I headed out and drove back to the airport. Stayed the night at a hotel near the airport so I could fly out in the morning. Now for my trip all around the area in Florida, I just drove to where I was going, found a hotel for the night and stayed there. The way I did that is I tried to find the best deal for a relatively nice hotel, right? A place I'd want to stay at a price I'd want to pay. And the way I did that was I used Google. I got to where I was going. You could even do this ahead of time, just zoom into a particular area. And I searched for nearby hotels, and then I put in the modifiers that I was looking for, and then I tried to find the best prices that I could, and also compare the hotel's ratings, and kind of weed it down. And then you don't actually wind up booking through Google. On a couple of those, I just walked into the hotel and stayed the night. They had a little bit higher rate than what was actually shown on Google. So then for the following nights, what I did was I looked at the offers that Google had. They had basically the offers from different websites, and that's how they got their price. Google typically shows the lowest price available that they have, but some of those websites are ones that I wasn't familiar with. So I just, when I'd look in there, I'd look at the prices from the travel sites that I was familiar with. I used hotels.com in the past, so that's the one that I decided to go with. I just downloaded the app on my phone, and so basically I've looked it up on Google, found the hotel I wanted, looked at the price that hotels.com had, opened it up into their app, booked it, and I even did this just like basically half hour before I showed up for one of my bookings. Now when you book it the same day, it's not refundable, but obviously if you're going to be staying that night and you already made your decision, then hey, you know. So booked it through hotels.com, got my discounted rate, went into the hotel and checked in for the night, and that method worked pretty good for me. So that might be something you can think about for your travels. You know, you don't have to book all this stuff ahead of time. You don't have to tie yourself down to a particular area. You can just get a rental car, start driving, and find a hotel for the night. It really makes your vacation more flexible. Really makes it so that you can really get a feel for the area. Yeah, I enjoyed that. So I hope you like this video, and have a good one and take it easy.